This is the Eagles Checkdown, fastest under 10-minute Eagles podcast there is, covering news, notes, and opinions of your favorite football team, the Philadelphia Eagles, right here on the Eagles Pinpoll Podcast Network. I'm your host, Phil Stifel. You can find me all social media platforms at Bearded Knowledge, and of course, hosting Trending in the AM, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. on the STT Sports Network. There's a link down below if you'd like to catch it. Where your opinions only. That's the only show where your opinions actually matter. And guys, it's Wednesday now, the 8th. We're inching closer to Eagles, Packers, NFL, NFC wild card round. And we're inching closer to Thursday morning show when we'll have a much better understanding of whether Jalen Hurts will play or not. On Tuesday, as always, Vic Fangio and Kellen spoke with the media. It's their go-to thing every single week on Tuesdays. And first and foremost, Kellen was not so, indirect with his answer. He gave more hints in his conversation than he fully expects Jalen Hurts to play on Sunday, where Nick Sirianni just says, no more information, we'll let you know. Kellen Moore danced around a little bit more, but let us believe that there's a very high chance that Jalen Hurts will participate in the game on Sunday and probably practice this week. We're going to get back to Kellen Moore in a second. But I keep asking the question to myself, doesn't even matter. Like, it does matter because Jalen Hurts is 10 times better at this point than Tanner McKee or Kenny Pickett is. But this Philadelphia Eagles team is head and shoulders at every single position if Jalen Hurts plays better than the Green Bay Packers. They've got better quarterback play with Jalen Hurts over Jordan Love. Saquon Barkley, better than Josh Jacobs. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, head and shoulders over every wide receiver that the Green Bay Packers have. Our linebackers are better. Our defensive ends are better. Our cornerbacks are better. Our tight end, Dallas Goedert, when healthy, and he is better. This is, as this week goes on, and I'm really truly examining who the Packers are at this point, I feel more and more confident about our Eagles beating, and not just beating, I don't want to use the word easily beating, but taking care of business in a confident manner on Sunday and moving on to the divisional round. When Vic Fangio spoke, two things that stuck out to me when he spoke to the media on Tuesday. One, he does not consider Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean rookies anymore. They are not rookies, and they're playing at all-pro, Pro Bowl levels. They didn't get quite the nods that they deserved, but let me tell you something. They're playing at high levels. And I know a lot of people are talking about Zach Bond and Kobe Dean and the jump from the linebacker position from last year to this year. But the thing is, last year, we didn't have expectations for the linebackers. We didn't have expectations for Christian Ellis or Nicholas Morrow. So Zach Bond and Kobe Dean didn't have much to beat. Last year, we had Darius Slay and James Bradbury coming off of all-pro Super Bowl seasons, and they completely fell apart. So the jump from those two to two rookies in the starting lineup and how they've been able to play, and obviously the turnaround that Darius Slay had from last year to this year, I don't think gets as much credit as those linebackers do, and I believe they deserve that. Vic Fangio also reiterated something we've already known, we've already talked about, which is great, which leads us back to Kellen Moore in a second. He has no desire to be a head coach anywhere anymore in the NFL. This is his last stop around the carousel. When he's done with Philadelphia, he will walk away from the game. This is his last and final job, and the job he really wants, coaching this Eagles defense. And that's great because Kellen Moore, we already talked yesterday about the Saints requesting an interview with Kellen Moore. The Jacksonville Jaguars put in a request to interview Kellen Moore, and I actually think that's a great place. So now 2 of the 6 openings, because just moments before recording this, the Raiders did fire Antonio Pierce, their head coach. It's a shame that Antonio Pierce and Jarrett Mayo were fired after, basically 1 year to turn dreadful organizations around. Kellen Moore is going to be a head coach, and Jacksonville requesting an interview is a big deal because he was one of their finalists before Doug Peterson was hired, several years ago. So Kellen Moore is going to be a head coach. He's young. He's a rising coach in the NFL. And whether it's this year or next year, he's going to get a job. But when you look at the 6 coaching openings in the NFL, the Raiders, Jets, Jags, Bears, Saints, and Patriots, the Raiders, the Jets, the Jags make sense. They got Trevor Lawrence. They need a great play caller there. The Patriots even make sense for him because they got a young Drake May there. I would be shocked if Kellen Moore does not get a coaching opportunity. And as I see him get that request from Jacksonville, it makes too much sense. So the Eagles better be planning in their head for the next step after Kellen Moore leaves Philadelphia. I hate it. I want us to have some consistency at the coordinators. Consistency at coordinators is how you have continued success, but part of success for the Eagles comes with, potentially losing their coordinators on a regular basis. And we'll get into it in the offseason if we lose them, who I'd want, but that's just something to keep an eye on. 6 openings. He's going to be interviewed for a lot of them. It is what it is. Back to the game on Sunday. We have the Brad Allen officiating crew officiating the game. And I don't know why I got interested in this, but I was just curious if this is good or bad. The officiating in the NFL has been atrocious this year. So I'm just like, who's Brad Allen? And what's his crew like? First and foremost, he's an 11-year veteran as the top guy, as a referee of his own crew. His crew has a 62.5% home advantage. You might remember him from last year. His crew was in charge of the Dolphins-Eagles game where we had no penalties. Dolphins had 10. The blatant missed face mask call against James Bradbury. It is what it is. He had the situation with the failed 2-point conversion with the Lions. He's had issues with the Bengals. It's an ongoing thing with Brad Allen and his crew having missed and having problems with crews. He calls, I think it was like 100 more penalties this year against visiting teams versus home teams. So there's another added bonus, maybe in our favor, that, we've got an officiating crew that, basically favors the Eagles to an extent. But he was so bad last year, he was pulled from the playoffs. So keep that in mind as well. There's a chance that there's going to be some funky refereeing on Sunday. Just throwing that there. One other news from the game upcoming this week. We do also have the Tom Brady crew. Tom Brady might be distracted trying to find a new head coach for his, team that he partly owns, the Raiders. But we got Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, and Erin Andrews and company there on the Fox call at 4:30 on Sunday. Interesting to hear because Tom Brady is one of the more honest analysts, I guess if you want to say, when talking about Jalen Hurts. He praises him when necessary. He criticizes him when necessary, but doesn't seem to have an agenda against Jalen Hurts like some of the other announcers out there. Another thing to keep in mind there. But guys, again, I'm having a hard time this week finding anything outside of Jalen Hurts not playing to give me a reason why the Eagles will not win this game. Tomorrow, we'll have updates on Jalen Hurts on this show, but this is the Eagles Checkdown right here on the Eagles Pinpoll Podcast Network. Guys, check me out, STT Sports Network, Trend the AM, linked below, live, 8 a.m., taking your news, your thoughts on all these news, notes, and opinions on all Philadelphia sports and national news. Guys, check it out, guys. Go Birds and bubbles up.